All right, so a very good morning to you all, and thanks for your time. I want to start off by saying a big thank you to the organizers of this virtual event for the opportunity. And so for this morning, I'll be speaking on the topic titled Creating Influence in the Business as Security Leaders, Driving Security Culture That Works. My presentation is in two phases. The first part of the presentation, I would go into or talk about essential leadership skills that I think cybersecurity professionals need to run their business, to run and influence their businesses on a day-to-day basis. And then phase two or part two of my presentation will delve into what I call security culture and what it's all about, what security culture is all about. And I'll also introduce a concept of what we call human-centered security and how that concept or learnings from that new technique can be integrated into an overall information security program. So I start off my presentation with a quote from John Maxwell. John Maxwell is one of my favorite leadership gurus. And he says a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Essentially what he's trying to say here is that leadership is all about direction and influencing others to achieve a common goal. On to the slide where I talk about the 5 key essential leadership skill sets that cybersecurity leaders need on a day-to-day basis to help shape and influence their organizations. The first key skill I want to start off with is what I call self-awareness. So essentially, self-awareness is knowing what drives you and how to play to your greatest strength. It's important to know yourself as a leader, as a security leader, and this will help tremendously or a lot on your leadership journey as a cybersecurity professional. The second key skill I want to highlight here is integrity. Integrity is very important. Essentially what integrity means is the quality of being honest and having a very strong moral compass. As a security leader, you will be tried and tested a lot of times. And in those tough situations, what keeps you going or what should keep you going is a very strong moral compass. The third key skill I want to highlight here is what I call concise communication. Communication is very, very important for a security leader. You should be able to communicate your objectives, strategies, and vision clearly at all levels within the organization. You should be able to speak the business language when you are with the board and with management. You should be able to speak the technical language when you are with the technology team. And you should also be able to use simple language, using day-to-day analogies to drive home cybersecurity concepts or points to all employees within your organization. Now, the fourth key skill that I want to talk about is passion. And what I say in relation to passion is the fact that every profession has what we call the Dr. Ox's. For those who know Dr. Ox is a very successful neurosurgeon. His net worth, the last time I checked, was over $100 million. Typically, these are the top 5%, 10% individuals within every profession. These are the people that CNN, the likes of CNN and Fox News would like to interview on topical issues within a certain specific field. What keeps these individuals going, always staying at the top, is continuous improvement, continuous learning. And how does continuous learning come about? Continuous learning only comes about through passion in a specific field or area. The fifth skill set, which I think is very important, is building relationships. This is one of the key things that you need to succeed. You cannot successfully roll out an information security program without building strong relationships with other business units or departments within an organization. So this ends phase one of my presentation. Phase two is where I delve into what security culture is all about. I'll share some very interesting statistics with you as well on the subject, and then we can move on to what I term as human-centered security. So by definition, what is security culture? I sort of like Kai Roya's definition. Kai Roya is a security culture measurement guru. He's written a couple of books on how to measure security culture across various organizations. And I think his definition is pretty simple and straightforward. So how he defines security culture is he says, security culture are the ideas, customs. Customs are typically your habits and social behaviors of an organization that influence their security. Now, it will be good to lay emphasis on the fact that security culture is primarily for humans and not for the technologies or the day-to-day systems that run an organization or power an organization. Also to highlight or state a known fact that everybody is aware of, that humans are the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity. And I have some staggering statistics to buttress that known fact. So in 2018, in the UK Information Commissioner's Office, almost 88% of data breaches that were reported in that year were attributed to human error rather than vulnerabilities in underlying technologies. This is from an Information Security Forum research. Also to highlight from a Gartner research that 91% of targeted attacks start with what we call spear phishing. Spear phishing is a kind of social engineering technique. I'll delve more into spear phishing in subsequent slides. And so I'm only just trying to make a point here on the fact that one of the key issues and discussions with CISOs all over, colleague CISOs all over Africa and even beyond, point to the fact that insider threats are one of the key things that keeps CISOs awake at night. Now, there are two types of insider threats. There are the malicious insiders, and then we have what we call accidental insider. Now, typically for malicious insiders, a lot of, let me say, advancement has been made in identifying who malicious insiders or employees are within institutions. Thanks to AI, if you are familiar with SIM and SOC terminologies or techniques, software such as user behavior analytics, it's actually helping organizations identify malicious users or employees on organizations' networks based on their activities, their actions on company networks. Now, the real problem is to do with the accidental insider. These are legitimate employees who are vulnerable, who are naive, and so these types of employees typically make accidental errors, which has a lot of implications to an organization. I mean, some of these errors could actually even affect specific organizations' bottom line. Now, the key question here is, if indeed human beings are the weakest link when it comes to information security, why are information security programs not focusing a lot of attention on these humans? One of the questions I typically ask colleagues, CIOs is, how is your organization trying to reduce the risk of human error? And typically the answer here is through awareness. Yes, awareness is good, but do we understand why human beings are vulnerable? Human beings are susceptible. Human beings do the things they do. You understand? If these things are not clearly known, and you run blanket cybersecurity awareness programs, then it doesn't help solve the human error problem. And so new research happening in the cybersecurity field points to what we call a new concept called human-centered security. Essentially, what this concept focuses on is to identify the fundamental vulnerabilities in humans, understanding how psychology works and what triggers risky behavior. If we delve into these things in deeper, we get an understanding of why human beings behave the way they do, why they make errors, why they are susceptible to errors. And so I want to use a diagram below to clearly or highly explain how the vulnerability in human beings occur on a day-to-day basis. So typically, it starts off with what we call the bad guy uses what we call social power. Social power is a degree of influence an individual or organization has over others. Typically, there are about 6 types of social power. And in a lot of spear phishing or whaling email schemes, which is essentially what I call psychological manipulation, a lot of these types of social powers are used to incite or draw employees in on a certain scheme. And so typically, these attackers or bad guys use these techniques, and it sort of builds pressure on humans or employees, if I can put it that way. Now, this pressure leads employees to use what we call heuristics. Essentially, what heuristics mean is heuristics are what we call mental shortcuts. These are efficient mental processes that help humans solve problems and learn new concepts. Now, this heuristics either leads to what we call a positive outcome, or it might lead to what we call cognitive biases. Now, essentially what cognitive biases are systemic errors in reasoning that lead to failures in producing correct decisions and judgments. These cognitive biases now can lead to errors, and based on these errors, the bad guys or external guys now exploit an employee or an individual. And so in all instances of spear phishing, whaling, this is usually the technique that is used. There's a bit of psychological manipulation, and depending on the research that the attacker does, if he's able to clearly understand that individual's interest, he's able to play that card against that individual and force that individual or convince that individual to click on a malicious link, thereby either injecting some vulnerability or malicious code into that individual's browser, or pushing some backdoor malware onto that machine. And through that machine, that bad guy is able to do what we call lateral movement and gain access to critical assets within an organization's network. I want to throw a bit more light on the cognitive biases. There are a few that are relevant to cybersecurity, but I want to just focus on a few of them here. One is what we call choice overload. And from a psychological perspective, humans struggle to make decisions when faced with too many options. A study found out that consumers were 10 times more likely to purchase jam on display when the options were reduced from 24 to 26. Cognitive biases also lead to what we call decision fatigue. If human beings are overwhelmed with a lot of decision making, they tend to make easier decisions, but not necessarily the best decisions. And then you have also what we call ego depletion. These are instances where human beings have a limited supply of willpower, and this decreases with use. So an example here would be if you introduce some information security policy or an acceptable use policy, for instance, to employees. The first few weeks when you introduce these policies or procedures, you have employees who try as much as possible to adapt learn and adapt or adjust their way of doing things to these policies. But over a period, that willpower decreases, and they tend to go back to their old ways of doing things. And so, based on my experience, I've come up with what we call the 5 pillars for addressing security cultural gaps. And I've used this in a couple of organizations, and the success story has been immense. And so typically, how I go about addressing security cultural gaps in an organization is to start off with the tone at the top, get management and sometimes boards buy-in to introduce an awareness program of some sort. So start off with a policy. A policy clearly highlights management or the board's buy-in into such an awareness program. And once that tone at the top is clear, you get all the support by way of resources to push this program through. So that's the first thing. And the second key thing that I would say is important in establishing a successful security awareness program within an organization is to identify who your key stakeholders are. It's very important. Cybersecurity should not work in silo. You are successful when you're able to partner and work with other departments. And so to successfully roll out a cybersecurity awareness program, it's good that you have or you build relationship or consensus with departments such as your HR, specifically your training unit under your HR department. It also makes sense to build relationship with the technology department. In this case, it will most likely be the CIO. And then also with your corporate or communication teams, because you need to send communication on a regular basis to all staff, introducing new concepts by way of sending across flyers, posters, or newsletters, etc. So these key stakeholders are very crucial or important once you take a decision to want to roll out a security awareness program within the organization. Now, the third key pillar here is determining the mode of training and also your audience. By mode of training here, I'm talking about how do you intend to go out to do the training? Are you focusing on face-to-face? Are you leveraging on a learning management platform of some sort? In this COVID era, it makes sense that you invest in a learning management system or platform that employees can actually do their trainings on. The training should be on the go. Employees should be anywhere, should be able to access these trainings anywhere on their private mobile devices, on their iPads, on their tablets, etc. Determining the audience is also very key. Is the awareness program going to be targeting everybody within the organization, or you're going to also focus on targeted individuals or groups or departments within the as part of running this cybersecurity awareness program? The fourth pillar I say is to measure the asset state. What is the current state? You need to be able to measure the current state to determine the effectiveness of the cybersecurity awareness program. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can do this through what we call a security culture survey. So as part of rolling out a program, you start off with what we call a security culture survey, which determines the level of employee, the cultural level, the security cultural level of your employees before you actually start off the training. And like I said, Roya has done a lot of good work in this space on how to measure security culture. He looks at it from 7 key areas, things to do with measuring attitude, behavior, cognition, communication, compliance, norms, and then responsibility. Another way you can actually measure the asset state is to, before you start off your program or your cybersecurity awareness training, start off with a phishing campaign. Phishing campaign gives you a sense of the number of employees who will be susceptible to clicking fake emails. And that helps determine, once you know the number before you start the training, over a period when you periodically do your phishing campaigns, it gives you a sense of whether employees that are prone to phishing are coming down, the numbers are coming down, or they're actually increasing, or they're actually at the same level. Those things help you see how best you can improve upon the security awareness program. The fifth pillar I say is looking at compliance. How do you achieve compliance? How do you get everybody within the organization to actually subscribe and do the cybersecurity awareness training? Again, this is where forging alliances or partnerships with HR is very important. And so from past experience, what has worked is to, over a period, integrate cybersecurity awareness trainings as part of employees' KPIs on a yearly basis. There's an option for the number of cybersecurity awareness trainings that you've done. And if employees know that these trainings are part of how they'll be assessed on a yearly basis, they tend to take such programs very seriously. The other thing is on improving the program. It's very important that over a period that you organize what we call surveys. These surveys, I would say, also have really helped me in my past roles. These surveys clearly determine what some of the challenges that employees go through as part of doing these trainings. You can actually use these surveys to rate the content of the trainings that you share with employees to do on either a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. And so a case in point is for one of the institutions that I used to work with. We rolled out this survey because the initial training, awareness training that we did, we realized that we only had about 80% success rate the initial time we rolled out. We wanted to understand why there was a 20% gap. And in rolling out the survey and teasing out what the challenges that these employees went through were, we were able to identify that, I mean, for some of the employees, there were issues to do with the fact that the machines they were using to actually do these trainings they don't have sound cards. Some are complaining of bad internet connectivity issues and so on and so forth. So this feedback actually helped us go back to IT and say, look, it looks as if we have these challenges and we need to take steps to address these challenges. Also, based on these issues coming to light, we're then forced to now look at other alternatives for employees to actually carry out or do these trainings. And that's where going for a cloud-based platform for a cybersecurity awareness program becomes helpful. Because if it's a cloud-based platform, then employees can actually access these trainings anywhere and on the go. And so working with various IT teams, we had to reduce the risk by rolling out a mobile device management platform that could actually help employees access corporate emails with these training video links on their private mobile devices in a controlled manner to reduce the risk of any cyber-related attacks or threats on that specific organization's network. And so on this slide, I also want to highlight or talk about ways that the concept of human-centered security can be applied in an organization's continuous information security program. One of the key ways you can actually do this is to conducting periodic security culture surveys. This service will clearly give you a sense of how employees interact with technology controls and data within your organization, help you to invest accordingly where necessary. And the second key thing that organizations can begin to do is to on a regular basis, review successful external attacks that have hit the organization. And in reviewing these attacks, what you want to be focusing on is trying to look at the techniques that attackers use, and which ones were triggered by cognitive biases. This helps you improve on your security awareness program for the organization. And then the third key point I'll say is reevaluating the structure of the working day based on the walkthrough diagram. I highlighted the fact that once human beings are under pressure, they tend to leverage on what we call heuristics, which is mental shortcuts. Now, one of the key ways that we can help reduce pressure within the environments which our employees work in is to look at work-life balance schemes that helps to reduce stress, exhaustion, and then poor time management, which also significantly increase the likelihood of errors being made. And so once all these things are factored into consideration, they help towards helping to mature the organization by way of its cyber culture. And in the long run, they help improve the organization's information security program. Thank you.